Welcome back to DFC Books. We are embarking on a deep dive today into a novel that really proves that the deepest, most potent magic often resides not in spells, but in the pages of a well-loved, possibly overdue library volume.
It's a great one.
It really is. And hey, if you have a book you think we should dissect next, please leave a comment with any book requests you have for future deep dives. We love knowing what knowledge you're hungry for.
Yeah, we do. So our subject today is Nina Bernstein's Magic by the Book. It's a true piece of literary fantasy that we've pulled from an excerpt, and it even has the stamp of the Queen's Public Library, specifically the Charlestown branch.
I love that detail, that stamp, the Queen's Public Library. It just grounds the magic in this wonderfully mundane reality, which makes the whole premise even more delightful.
It does.
The novel is basically asking this grand question. What if the power that's just latent in all the great stories we read could physically manifest and just transport you?
That's the mission right there. And the source material shows this novel is this ingenious, deeply felt tribute to the power of books. It pays very direct homage to literary heroes and authors. I mean, it spans centuries.
Right, from the ballads of Robin Hood
To the childhood adventures of E. Nesbit and Edward Eager, and then it goes all the way up to the monumental realism of Leo Tolstoy. It's an incredible range.
And the central hook is that the book itself is so strong that reading it transports these three siblings, Anne, Emily, and Will, to entirely different times and places. It all happens during one truly amazing magical summer.
And we're going to map out exactly how that magic works, and maybe more importantly, why their individual knowledge, or even their lack of knowledge, becomes their greatest weapon.
Okay, so let's start where every great story starts, with the family. Because the eccentricity of the Thorne family isn't just background color, is it? It's the precondition that lets the magic happen.
Oh, absolutely. That's a crucial insight. If they were a normal, super vigilant family, these adventures simply couldn't take place.
Not a chance.
They live in Whitestone, Queens, in New York City, in this rambling, old, slightly dilapidated house. And crucially, they're surrounded by these new developments of identical, neat houses. The Thorntons are this little island of charming chaos.
And the world sees them as an oddity.
A total oddity.
And that oddity is communicated through these specific, almost absurd details, like the father's car. He works for a newspaper, always chasing stories, and he drives this dusty car where the steering wheel is on the wrong side.
Right, a relic from the 3 years they lived in London.
Exactly. It's this constant visual reminder that this family is sort of perpetually oriented to a place other than Queens.
And the parents, they're defined by their creative distraction. The mother writes a syndicated gardening column, and she's just perpetually lost in her own thoughts. You get this wonderful image of her planting bulbs in her pajamas.
Wearing a muddy slicker, her mind completely on the perfect metaphor for a perennial boarder.
And that deep vocational distraction, it leads to these hilarious domestic mishaps, which are just fundamental to who they are.
Oh, the mishaps are the best part. We're talking about flourless brownies for the school picnic. A well-meaning but, catastrophic attempt at baking.
Or the classic example, the father, distracted by a phone call from a war correspondent in Manila.
And he marinates a steak in shoe polish instead of Worcestershire sauce.
Exactly. I mean, these aren't isolated incidents. They establish this pattern of profound, creative absent-mindedness.
And that parental detachment, it later serves this serious, almost chilling plot function, doesn't it? It's what allows the magic to proceed uninterrupted.
It's specifically what allows Will's disappearance to go completely unnoticed. The parents just believe he's around somewhere. They are mentally elsewhere, which is, both their charm and their failing.
Right. So let's move to the siblings, beginning with Anne. She's the eldest, and she's really the intellectual driver of the adventures.
Yeah, Anne is 11, tall for her age, and she's clearly the natural planner and leader. She's enthusiastic and curious, but the sources make it very clear this enthusiasm is masking a deep layer of insecurity.
Which she picked up after the family came back from London a year and a half earlier.
Right, she felt like a total stranger. The source material details these small, cruel comments from classmates and, even worse, her teacher, a Mrs. Feathersnee.
Oh, Mrs. Feathersnee.
Who constantly points out Anne's British way of speaking, or her supposedly European style. That constant feeling of being marked as other just causes her to look at herself so negatively.
She sees her height as awkward.
Yeah, right.
She worries she has grown like a weed with big feet and elbows that just stick out.
And her response to this sense of displacement and awkwardness is to just throw herself into literature. It's a world she can control.
And here's where her character foundation becomes her magical toolkit. She's devoured classic literary fantasies, E. Nesbit's The Enchanted Castle, Edward Eger's The Time Garden.
But what's truly telling is her choice of that immense illustrated edition of Tolstoy's War and Peace.
Yes, she insisted on checking it out, even though the librarian gave her a look.
That one decision tells you everything you need to know about Anne. She doesn't just want escapism, she craves these grand, complex, world-altering narratives. She wants stories that define historical epochs.
This vast, almost scholarly knowledge base is what the magic later taps into for their survival. Anne is armed with the memory of 1,000 plots.
Exactly. Then you have Emily, the middle child. She's 9, has curls, definitely a tomboy. And crucially, she's the necessary contrast to Anne.
She's the impulsive collaborator.
Yes, she sometimes finds Anne's planning and intensity a bit exhausting, but she's defined by her relationship with Anne. She needs her as an audience, collaborator, and supporting cast rolled into one.
So Anne provides the narrative framework.
And Emily provides the immediate physical action. She is all about instinct.
We see that right away, don't we? When she doesn't pause to think, she just fights the Dark Knight Pomfret, seizes his riding crop, and snaps, "Dog yourself."
She's impatience personified. The source mentions her spectacular failure at hide-and-seek when she just got bored of being perfectly hidden inside an attic suitcase and walked out.
She just abandoned her post. She's the chaos element that the planning magic needs.
Absolutely. And finally, there's Will. He's 6 3/4, small for his age, which really contributes to him feeling left out by his highly literate older sisters.
And Will's challenge is the most poignant, I think. He cannot read yet.
No. He struggles desperately with the alphabet. He sees it as this chaotic, impenetrable alphabet forest. He just can't find a path or a narrative thread in the text itself.
And yet his relationship with books is so deeply sensory.
It is. He loves the physicality of them, the mustiness of old ones, the stiff, shiny, almost painful smell of new ones. He wishes he could just inhale them. It suggests this nonlinear, intuitive way of absorbing information that doesn't rely on decoding letters.
And this non-reading knowledge.
Yeah.
That's his true champion status. Will is an expert entomologist in miniature. He's deeply knowledgeable about insects and the garden.
He knows the Latin names by heart from his favorite pocket-sized paperback on insects.
That detail about his worm and dirt collection kept in a rusty muffin tin meant for a bake sale. It's brilliant. It elevates his childhood hobby to the status of scientific inquiry.
It really does. And this deep empirical connection to the real garden is precisely the knowledge the magic will later demand of him. His expertise is grounded, physical, and technical. It sets him up for an adventure that is completely unlike Anne's literary quests.
The stage is set, the characters are defined, and the magic, it wastes no time at all. The first adventure, the beginning Sherwood in the twilight, it just launches instantly.
The transition is so abrupt. Anne and Emily find this shabby, unassuming volume from the public library while they're just lounging in their backyard hammock at dusk. There's no buildup, no spell casting.
They just read, and they are gone.
Just gone. The immediate transportation from their quiet Queen's Garden into the mist and deepening shadows of Sherwood Forest is the first massive event. They're instantly confronted by a physical manifestation of high-stakes villainy. Sir Reynold Pomfret.
A cruel, Norman-supporting Dark Knight with a twisted scar above his mouth. The danger is immediate and tangible.
But before the girls can even react, they're saved in classic fashion. An arrow sings through the trees, transfixing Pomfret's hand to a tree trunk. We are instantly pulled into the realm of the traditional ballad.
And we meet the familiar cast: Will Scarlet, Arthur the Bland, Alan a Dale. The girls are swiftly blindfolded and taken to the outlaws' camp.
And there, they meet the man himself, Robin Hood, or Robin of Locksley. He's tall and handsome, and they join the feast.
But this is more than just a setting. It's a moral and political environment. And the next chapter, Captured, immediately raises the narrative stakes far above simple banditry.
This is where the children's modern knowledge of history intersects with the fictional past. The major conflict is revealed under the cover of the feast. Pomfret is whispering urgently to an abbot of Hereford about a sinister plot.
A treasonous plot. King Richard the Lionheart is captured in a castle in Austria, and Prince John is planning to have him executed quietly, before the capture's even made public.
So John can claim the throne outright.
Right. And Pomfret tries to create a diversion, feigning convulsions, a dramatic, almost theatrical distraction.
But Emily's lack of patience and impulsive action exposes him. She cries out, "Watch out! He's trying to escape! It's just a trick!"
So Emily's intervention, while it saves the abbot from an embarrassing public fall, it leads directly to their own capture.
Exactly. They're imprisoned in a damp cell in Nottingham Castle. The irony is immediate. They use their knowledge to alter the plot, and the plot immediately retaliated.
And the critical turning point comes when Robin Hood, recognizing how severe this claim is, extracts a confession from the abbot with threats, confirming the secret plot against Richard.
The children's accidental presence has injected this historical urgency into the timeless Robin Hood narrative.
Which brings us to Nottingham Castle. Here, the girls face the limitations of the magic. They try the most basic kind of wish fulfillment you can think of.
They grasp hands and demand, "Magic, take us home."
Nothing happens.
Nothing. The magic is clearly not subject to simple desire. It's bound by the narrative constraints of the world they've entered. They realize they have to follow the internal logic of the story they're now in.
And soon they're dragged before Prince John Lackland, who's clearly depicted as a weakling and a bully, and the Sheriff of Nottingham in the Great Hall.
And Anne is horrified to realize that her historical knowledge, which was meant to stop Pomfret, has actually resulted in their capture, and worse, has been used against the outlaws.
The stakes become personal and immediate with this terrible twist. Will Scarlet has been captured spreading treasonous gossip about Richard's true whereabouts.
And he's scheduled to hang at sundown. Prince John is using Steinitz as high-profile bait to lure Robin Hood out of hiding. This creates a ticking clock and demands Anne, the planner, to think completely outside the box.
So what does she do? She taps into that massive, well-organized library of stories in her head. This sets up the thrilling chapter, Escape.
And the core event here is the implementation of their brilliant metatextual literary rescue plan. They realize they can't just wish themselves out, so they have to disguise themselves to navigate the castle.
They find a chest full of court clothes in their room. A classic adventure story trope.
Oh, yeah. And Anne, ever the enthusiastic role player, disguises herself in a wine-red gown, and Emily in saffron and purple. They look like high-status ladies or traveling burghers.
And they're subtly guided out of the Great Hall by Marion Fitzwater, Lady Marion, who is disguised as a gooseherd outside the castle walls.
They rendezvous with Robin Hood, who's disguised masterfully as a black and silver minstrel, and Anne proposes a plan that is completely alien to the 12th century.
This is the crucial literary insight. Anne's plan is inspired directly by the dramatic, high-stakes guillotine rescue found in Baroness Orczy's The Scarlet Pimpernel.
It's a rescue built not on strength, but on total chaos and misdirection. A complex, layered deception far beyond the usual one or two Palmer's diversion strategy you'd see in the Robin Hood ballads.
They're essentially applying a 20th century adventure thriller strategy to a medieval crisis.
It's brilliant, and the rescue is just pure, exhilarating chaos. During the procession to the gallows, multiple Robin Hood followers disguised as tingers and gooseherds create pandemonium by pointing out fake Palmers.
And the girls, having escaped the constraints of being mere hostages, they dive headfirst into the fight. They grab weapons of opportunity, frying pans seized from a donkey cart.
I love that part.
Anne uses her awkward, gangly height to her advantage, swings an iron skillet and fells a captain. And her triumphant cry, a home run, a modern American baseball reference shouted in medieval Nottingham, it just perfectly encapsulates this blending of historical settings and modern knowledge.
It really does.
Yeah.
And the resolution is a dual victory, physical and political. Robin Hood defeats Pomfret in a climactic duel on the gallows. But the key victory is forcing Prince John to publicly acknowledge Richard's capture.
Which is essential to stabilizing the realm and, most importantly, beginning to collect the ransom. The children haven't just saved a character, they have fundamentally corrected the historical narrative within this magical realm.
They really have. The adventure ends happily in Sherwood, the narrative temporarily resolved, and when the children check the library stamp on the inside front cover, it reads, "Date due, not yet."
A clear signal that the book's magic is still potent, still waiting for its next chapter.
It's a phenomenal meta-narrative. The magic of the book isn't about finding new stories. It's about recognizing that the stories you already possess, like The Scarlet Pimpernel or your knowledge of the medieval political landscape, are tools you can use to rewrite the plot when you need to. The story responds to their literary ingenuity.
We've seen how literary knowledge provides a framework for survival. Before we shift focus to Will's entirely different kind of adventure, we're pausing for a quick moment. If you are enjoying this deep dive into Nina Bernstein's extraordinary literary world, and you want to ensure we keep bringing you detailed analyses of fascinating source material, please hit that subscribe button right now. Your subscription helps DFC Books immensely.
It really does.
Now, let's get back to the magic and see what happens when the book chooses the non-reader.
Okay, so following the high drama of Sherwood, 2 weeks pass in Queens. The book, seemingly exhausted by its literary display, is stubbornly shut to Anne and Emily. They're left out.
And this is the magic's critical moment to pivot to the character who needs it most, Will.
Yes. Will, feeling excluded and sensitive about his inability to read, is drawn to the shabby volume. He approaches it physically, remembering a fragment of a rune or a ballad that warned against speaking in elfin land. A piece of knowledge he must have gleaned from his sisters, not from the text itself.
And the chapter, Will's Turn, highlights the most important event, his interaction with the illustrations. He finds a picture of a gnome named Mockerskin peering out of a hawthorn bush.
And then Mockerskin moves off the page and invites Will in. Just like that, Will is transported to Jardinia, a land which we quickly realize is a magically distorted version of his own small backyard garden.
In Welcome to Jardinia, he's immediately met by the four gnoblins, Mockerskin, Bullthistle, Hackberry, and Spiderwort. And they explain the curse.
Right. Jardinia was once a neat lawn, but the evil sorcerer Forficula cast a growing curse, expanding everything, insects, grass, even drops of dew to 10 times their normal size. Only the Nomblins remain their original size.
This is such a radical shift from the Robin Hood adventure. This isn't a world of political maneuvering or literary deception.
No, it's a world of scale and empirical science. Will is immediately established as the champion who has to solve a 3-part riddle to break the curse. And the enemy, Forficula, is revealed to be a gigantic, menacing version of a European earwig, or Forficula auricularia.
This is why Will's expertise is paramount. The Nomblins explicitly need his human perspective and strength, since they're too small and terrified to fight the oversized bugs. His knowledge of insects, which was just a niche hobby, is now the core requirement for saving an entire realm.
And the riddle, or rune, guides the whole quest. Too small to see, in death I live, in life I die, and life I give. Will has to find the 3 parts of this answer from earth, water, and air.
His first challenge is in The Sorcerer of Death Mountain, the quest for the object of earth. Will is outfitted like a tiny hero. He gets a slingshot with spiked missiles, firefly juice flares.
And a beautifully balanced silver sword, which I think symbolizes the incorruptibility of scientific truth, and these paralyzing fume pellets. And he proves his skill immediately, practicing pitching the pellets expertly by reading the wind direction, which is an essential skill in applied entomology.
And Death Mountain is, of course, Will's own compost heap, just transformed by the growing curse.
And the confrontation with Forficula is the climax of this segment. Will uses strategic knowledge, not brute force. He uses a flare to distract giant moths and a spider's net, provided by Spiderwort, to capture battalions of pinnacate beetles.
When he faces Forficula, the giant earwig, he realizes the power of the silver sword isn't just to stab, but to slash the sorcerer's black, moldy cloak, which represents the corrupting magic.
And slashing the cloak reveals the actual giant earwig underneath. And Will then uses his training in wind direction to deploy the paralyzing fume pellets, eliminating Forficula's poison gas brigade.
And the victory allows him to solve the first part of the riddle. The item is decayed grass and leaf mold from the compost heap.
He connects this back to his mother's vague lessons and his scientific reading. This mold contains invisible bacteria. He realizes bacteria are too small to see. They live off dead things like the decomposing compost, and they give life to the plants they feed. His specific knowledge has provided the first key.
But the magic doesn't just isolate Will. It continues to distort reality back in Queens, which terrifies his sisters, as we learn in Finding Will.
Yeah, Anne and Emily realize the extent of the parental spell. Their parents are repeating those placid, vacant phrases. Oh, Will is just here. He's around somewhere. The source describes this as a morbid indifference.
A profound failure of attention that makes the house a genuinely unsafe place.
It does. And when Will finally returns, he's back in his bed, awake but unresponsive, his eyes unfocused, and rightly worries that his soul hasn't fully returned from Jardinia. It emphasizes the physical cost of this magical immersion.
And the Nomblins have to intervene in the real world. They emerge now shrunk from the book. And crucially, the girls discover the book is being held ajar by a piece of dusty Play-Doh.
Such a great detail, a mundane child's artifact preserving the magical connection.
They realize Will has grown, but he's catatonic. They manage to revive him through a dream sequence where he sees the Nomlins tiny and remembers recounting his quest battles to them.
Once revived, Will isn't just back, he's emboldened. He's ready for the next stage.
The second quest, the Lake of Stone Shores, focuses on the water component. Will, now speaking clearly and enthusiastically, accepts the mission. He travels on a giant grasshopper, a melanopolis.
His knowledge of insect locomotion now facilitates transportation.
He travels to the Lake of Stone Shores, which he recognizes as his mother's round goldfish pond and fountain statue.
And the situation is immediately fraught. The lake is described as a vortex, indicating active magical hostility. Will has to apply physics and engineering, building a small boat out of leaves and twig debris, realizing that at his tiny scale, every piece of flotsam is structural.
Then comes the moment of profound knowledge application. He has to survive a terrifying swarm of mating mayflies. The source specifies them as Order Ephemeroptera.
And he uses his butterfly net as a mask, realizing these aren't just flies, they are ephemeral creatures. Their Latin root means short-lived wings.
This is the exact language of the riddle. They die in life, as adults, but their eggs lead to the mayfly naiads, which live for a year underwater, eating pond debris and giving life to the next cycle.
So he retrieves the second item from the water, the naiads and pond debris, and secures them in his golden flask.
Finally, we reach Too Small to See, the quest for air knowledge. Will has to climb Breakneck Cliff, which he initially finds ridiculous, being told to climb high and see as do the crows.
But the ultimate solution is purely intellectual. It emphasizes the value of perspective. When he reaches a high ledge and turns to live down, the landscape opens up to him like a book. He recognizes all of Jardinia as his own garden. The pond, the wisteria arbor, the compost heap.
He realizes the physical manifestation of the curse was based on a failure of scale. He was too close before, too small to see the gardens for the grass.
This knowledge, this high-altitude bird's-eye recognition of his own world, is the third quest object. It fulfills the requirement for air, perspective, and breaks the spell on Will himself.
That is a remarkably sophisticated idea for a children's fantasy novel. The magic isn't broken by a physical artifact, but by this sudden flash of profound intellectual recognition that the world he saved was the ordinary world he already knew.
And the magic responded to the fact that his knowledge was empirical and true, regardless of his inability to read.
So, following Will's triumph, the children are back together, changed by their separate journeys. But the book remains closed, stuck in a state of suspended magic.
And the family briefly returns to their eccentric domestic routine, preparing for a garden party.
But the magic isn't finished with them. It's just found a new, more terrifying way to cross into their reality. In the chapter Garden Party, the convergence of magical and real-world threats begins.
It really does. The parents get those cryptic, static-filled phone calls referencing a reporter named Donderberg who is missing near Transylvania and rambling about a castle. This establishes the magical origin point and the impending threat.
Then, Anne sees him, the dark, heavily wrapped, odd figure emerging from the shadows of the pines in the garden. This is the interloper.
And his arrival signals that the magical threat is no longer confined to the book's pages. It is invading their physical space.
In The Bearded Interloper, Anne, driven by instinct, pursues the man through the chaos of the party. Guests mistake him for a mysterious new copy editor or maybe a pretentious artiste with a wolfish look.
Subtle foreshadowing that the adults just dismiss as eccentric genius.
Exactly. The key moment happens when Anne finds the man alone in her father's study, holding the magic book, and he reveals his identity and his agenda. He calls the book the Otiat Hermetica.
And he claims it contains the secrets of dominion over time and earth.
This is a massive philosophical shift. While the children sought adventure and used the book to understand their world, this man seeks absolute control and dominion.
Anne sees his eyes glitter, almost yellow, confirming his unnatural antagonistic nature. The interloper is this formidable dark force seeking the book's vast power.
Which sets the stage for the final, most thematically complex adventure. The children are transported to Russia in the chapter Winter Masquerade.
And this setting is not random. It's a scene directly lifted from Tolstoy's War and Peace specifically, the Melyukov family's party, complete with dancing, fortune-telling, and supper.
The magic has chosen a setting designed to exploit Anne's literary weakness. Her attraction to the grand, dangerous, high-stakes romanticism of the classic novel. She even finds herself comparing her role in the scene to Natasha Rostova. The setting is seductive.
Very. And this is where the tension builds. Over supper, they hear about a specific, terrifying Russian divination ritual. Holding a mirror alone in an empty barn can summon a future bridegroom, or, perhaps, a demon lover.
And the girl must keep the creature talking until the cock crows to break the spell, or risk being dragged to the underworld.
And Anne, against all common sense but driven by the need to confront the interloper, agrees to perform this incredibly dangerous ritual alone in the empty barn. She's using herself as bait, hoping her literary knowledge will be enough to keep the wolf at bay.
Which brings us to the final high-stakes confrontation. Wolves in the snow. Anne is confronted not by a demon, but by a handsome young man, the interloper, in a seductive disguise.
He immediately turns the scenario into an intellectual and literary challenge. He starts questioning her. He asks her the 9 questions from the obscure English ballad, Riddles Wisely Expounded, not the Russian carol riddles they talked about at the party.
He's testing the very foundations of her knowledge.
He is, and Anne manages to answer the first 6, showing her extensive literary background, including that crucial philosophical answer. Truth is brighter than the light, falsehood is darker than the night. But she falters on the last 3.
And as she struggles, the transformation begins.
The tension builds incredibly. The man's features shift, the shadow of a stubble spreads into a full beard, and those seductive eyes turn into the glowing yellow gaze of a wolf. The literary test is failing, and the predatory magic is about to claim her.
And the climax is a triumph of family, not individual expertise. Emily and Will arrive just in time, having found the magic book where the interloper had dropped it.
The 3 children, the planner, the impulsive actor, and the empirical expert recite the last 3 answers to the 9 riddles in unison.
And the answers themselves are this powerful thematic conclusion. Revenge is keener than an axe. Love is softer than melting wax. The world is rounder than a ring.
Their shared collective knowledge saves the day. A howl of rage erupts from the transformed wolfman, and they escape in a horse-drawn sleigh, pursued by the interloper, who is now calling to a pack of hungry wolves.
Their final, desperate escape strategy is so brilliant and deeply layered with literary history. They race across a flat expanse of snow, a frozen lake.
And Anne remembers a story her father told of the writer across Lake Constance. She realizes the interloper wants the ice to break at daybreak, destroying them, but she gambles that the magic spell holding the Russian winter will also break at daybreak, neutralizing his pursuit.
It's the final application of external knowledge, a story remembered from their own father that allows them to navigate the fictional world. They win by understanding the magical rules of engagement.
They do.
The final chapter, Date Due, today, brings the narrative full circle, returning the children to their eccentric reality and giving us that final piece of the puzzle about the interloper.
The most important event here is the convergence of the magical and the real-world threats, explaining how the interloper breached their world. They return to find their parents discussing the missing reporter, Donderberg.
And the father confirms that Donderberg is convinced he sent this werewolf to our garden party by mistake.
And Anne connects the phone calls to the interloper's method. The static-filled phone line allowed the interloper to use the book's power to worm information out of the reporter about the children.
Using the magic like judo against them? What a wonderful description of antagonistic magic using the opponent's strength against them.
It is, and fittingly, the magical summer ends with finality. Will opens the cover to check the library stamp one last time. The Purple Queen's Public Library stamp on the inside cover now reads, Date Due Today.
The book is permanently locked shut. None of them can turn the pages. The magic has run its course, its contract fulfilled.
So what does this all mean? I mean, the book's dual theme is so clear. The magic of the adventure is entirely dependent on the magic found in the literature that inspired it. This is a profound argument for comprehensive curiosity.
And the nature of the magic is highly selective and adaptive. It responds precisely to the character's individual, specialized knowledge.
Exactly. Anne's deep literary knowledge allowed her to rewrite a medieval plot using the Starlet Pimpernel. Will's expertise in entomology and gardening saved Dardinia by solving a riddle of scale and biology.
And their shared familial knowledge of an obscure ballad saved them from the Wolfman.
The knowledge gained in one area, whether it's Tolstoy, E. Nesbit, or Latin insect names, proved essential to survival in a completely unrelated magical realm.
They lost the physical artifact when they returned it to the library, but as Anne realizes and confirms by opening her notebook to write in the dusk, their knowledge and the ability to tell and continue those stories remains.
Right. The interloper craved dominion. He called the book the Otiat Hermetica, claiming the secrets to dominion over time and earth. But the children, by solving the riddles and surviving, they learned that true dominion comes from understanding, not control.
The magic they experienced was collaborative. It demanded their ingenuity, not simply commanding their desires.
Hmm.
So the final provocative thought for you to consider is this. The magic is now back on the library shelf. Why did the book, which was clearly powerful enough to transport them across centuries and dimensions, return itself locked shut and stamped date due today, rather than just vanishing?
I think it's because the book itself, whether it's shabby or rare, is merely a vessel for the stories it holds. It needed to be returned to the Queen's Public Library so that the next adventurer, the next reader, with their own unique collection of knowledge and fears, can check out the Otiat Hermetica and discover that the true power of time and earth is waiting inside them.
A truly spectacular deep dive into a novel that reminds us why we checked out books in the first place. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of magic by the book.
It was a pleasure to connect the vast, deep world of literary knowledge with the small, ordinary garden of the Thornton family.
We hope you walk away feeling well-informed and perhaps ready to tackle that big book you've been avoiding. Thank you for tuning in to DFC Books.